Candidate Victor Ohai is here in the studio with us to take a look at some of those issues raised. Good morning, and nice to see you, and Happy New Year.
Good morning.
Happy New Year. Thank you. Congratulations on your award.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now, the president said a lot of things in his love letter to Nigerians on the first day. And it's really interesting, some of the things he touched, although we've heard comments about him not touching on other things from different people and all of that, which is a common thing. But if we had to narrow it down to some of the issues Nigerians are complaining most about, the issue of poverty, the issue of inequality, all of those things, well, the president is consistent with his promise that he is going to do something, he's doing something, and he's going to do something about it. You remember his promise to take 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. Now, taking a look at that speech, I know you've read it over and over again. What strikes a chord with you?
What strikes a chord with me is the inconsistency between what is said and what is actually done. And if you look, I'd like to attempt a bit of trend analysis, or just, if you like, look at what's been happening over the years, because that's the only way to make an objective assessment. Yeah. You will recall that in 2015, he made 3 promises: to fight corruption, insecurity, and I think thirdly, and the economy. But apart from this, and those were the only 3 things he mouthed when he was talking. But his speech writers loaded a lot of other stuff into it. And that's where I'm heading to. And then eventually, when it came to implementation, none of these things were, I mean, they attempted to do some of them, implement some of them, the feeding of 5,000, and you know, I mean, giving 5,000 naira,
poorest of the
poor, feeding, and all of that. Yeah. And at the point, the president had to deny that, I mean, so you can see that speechwriters are on the one hand, the president is on the other hand. Again, you might give it to him. Maybe he's actually a man of integrity, as we say. He says what he will, but when speechwriters write, it's different from what he has in mind.
But it is expected that he wrote the speech.
No, I would say
or, on the other hand, he gives approval to what the speech says.
You see, let me say this to you. He needs to make, he has been told probably that he needs to speak to Nigerians, which is okay, there's nothing wrong with it, okay? But the problem we have is, in speaking to Nigerians, let the man speak from his heart. And let him say exactly what he wants to do. The way you know a man is when a man is able to, when a man stands up and gives impromptu speeches, you know he's speaking from his heart. Speech writers are there to just write beautiful speeches. That's what they're paid to do. But whether what they're writing is consistent with what a man has in mind or his vision is a completely different thing. Right. And that's what worries me. Let me just say this very quickly. If you're talking about creating jobs and taking us to a next level, then I'm wondering why the clamp down on social media, or why the, if you like, call it tech phobia that we have. Exactly, you know.
You think the president has, oh sorry, the presidency has tech phobia.
Exactly, yes. You know, especially among young people. This is our largest resource, you know, the young people of this country. And that's where we have the highest population, okay? Now, you know, with the level of disruption that takes place in the tech space. I'll give you a small example. An Uber, for instance, does not own a single car, and yet it has created millions of jobs, you know, globally. In Nigeria, hundreds of thousands of jobs, okay? A company like Airbnb, for instance, they don't own, Jumia does not have, or any of these companies, they don't own any, they don't have stock. But just disruption, one app, has created, you know, so many jobs and all that. Why are you fighting that space? If you do the right thing, there's nothing to worry about.
It's for fake news and, you know, issues like that.
Why? When you do a good thing, you have no need to fear fake news, because what you do will speak for you.
All right. Now, still talking about implementation and all of that, because when you speak with Nigerians, a lot of them, when you talk about the times where Nigeria was prosperous, so to speak, they refer to 60s and 70s. And then you begin to wonder what was done at the time that is so difficult to replicate at this time, seeing that we are even in a democracy.
See, this is what worries me. I was ruminating I've been ruminating over the past few days, and I said, the military, you know, yeah, well, you might say that they could take, I mean, they could take fast decisions and all that, but that's why you have a budget. You know, you would have planned what you want to do for the year, and then you implement. Okay, how were they able to build? We had railways that worked. How did they do it? You know, railways across the whole country. I know I used it as growing up. You know, all the major roads, Lagos, Ibadan Express, Enugu, Port Harcourt Express, all of these roads were there. How were they able
all the
to
refineries are built at that time.
Now it's a big ceremony. It's a huge deal. It's a big deal. Just trying to maintain, not even build. And I'm asking, why is it such a difficult thing? You know, so for me, what really matters here is being intentional about what you want to do and going after it. It's not the ceremonies. It's about focusing on what you want to do. Not too many things at a time. Choose what you want to do, face it, and implement it to the very end. The idea behind starting new projects without completing old projects is not helping anyone. Government is a continuum.
They say leadership is deliberate.
It is.
You feel that there's no, this is not deliberate enough. What the body language or maybe the tactic or the approach is not deliberate enough?
I'll tell you what my biggest issue here is. There's an economic team that has been put in place, and I will illustrate with a story. The Chinese built the Great Wall to prevent invaders from coming in. Several times, invaders entered into China, you know, breaking the barrier of the wall without breaking one single
brick.
And what happened? What really happened was simply because, yes, they built a wall, but they did not build a man, because at the gate were people who could be corrupted. You understand what I'm saying? And so if you're talking about all the programs, and in terms of implementation, you do not have the right people in place.
It undermines the entire.
You understand? Or you are nepotic. Just because you want to, you want to please certain interest groups, you don't put your best hands, okay? And all your plans will just fall apart. And that's what we're experiencing right now.
All right. Thank you very much, Victor Hai, for coming up.
So recently, a World Bank report stated that over a number of Nigerians could sink deeper into extreme poverty if certain things are not done, especially in terms of our policies. And from the message of the president talking about hope, optimism, the 2020 has been a season of hope and optimism. With such a report, where you place it side by side, I wonder how much hope you have in view or in mind for Nigerians with that kind of report.
Well, hope may not be a bad word, but that's not what Nigerians need right now. First, that speech is an admittance that about 100 million people are living in poverty, at the minimum. Because if you're going to take 100 million people out of poverty, it therefore means you have accepted that 100 million people are living in poverty. And of course, if a government is admitting a thing like that, then that's a conservative, what do you call it now? Estimate or figure. Exactly. So, and to be talking about hope at a time like this is something that worries me. Because, okay, look at the policy on agriculture. We're hinging our hopes for the success of that sector on agreements with external bodies. I'm talking about agreements reached with Morocco and with Russia. Now, who does that? You see, it's the internal policies that you put in place that will help take you out of, if you like, whatever problems or rot you're in. Examples, for instance, the United States of America, agriculture is very critical there. What they do is they go as far as subsidizing their farmers. Okay? You don't just put policies in place and not be deliberate about them. You know, the cost of rice, even the local rice, is prohibitive. If you want to encourage true farming, agriculture, in whatever sense, and it's not just about food. I do not know that food is exactly the biggest agricultural problem here. You see, farmers, cotton, you can revive the textile industry with a deliberate policy on cotton, for instance, and promoting farmers in that sector. You look at sesame seed, you look at so many, and then even animal husbandry and all that. Yeah. Now, what the American government does, for instance, is they buy, okay, if rice is sold by farmers at, let's say 1,000 naira per bag, they will buy and resell to the public at less to encourage the farmers. Okay, they have strategic grain reserve.
Boards.
I don't know that. Good thing that you asked that question. I don't know the last time I heard about it. I don't know what grain silos we have. What our strategic grain reserves are, I don't know. And I say so sincerely. I'm not going to sit here and begin to pretend. Okay, so we need to be deliberate about this. It's not the time to be talking about hope. It's a time to put in place deliberate policies that will help that particular sector, because for me, that is one way out of where we are right now.
All right. Now, as it is, the president has talked about the issue of hope, optimism, possibilities, and all of that. Let's look at areas that we have comparative advantage as a people, as a nation. What areas do you think we can capitalize based on the resource that we have, or based on the capacity that we have to better us in the 2020?
First is the human capital.
Okay.
Our huge resources are young people. Unfortunately, there's a clampdown on them right now because every young man you see carrying a phone or a laptop becomes a suspect. Okay? And that should not be the case. When you mention the word Forex now, it has been looked at, people look at it now as if it is a Yahoo business, but the banks do it every day. Okay? If you do not promote financial literacy, if you do not promote technological, if you don't encourage the young people to embrace technology, how are we going to break through? The biggest companies in the world, the richest companies in the world are not even the manufacturing companies. They are the tech companies. But the techphobia or technophobia of this current administration is not helping matters. And the police are following the body language of the government. We need to help our young people position themselves to take over the future along with their mates all over the world. That is very important. Secondly, agriculture is an area that beyond just producing food, rice is not, when we talk about rice and make it a big issue, I begin to wonder, you know, there's so much, there's a lot in the agricultural space that we can take advantage of. Now we have our cocoa, for instance, there's no deliberate policy in that direction.
All right.
Okay, fine.
Quickly, because we are running short of time.
No, it's okay.
Quickly, the aspect of power, and we know that power is a key driver of any economy.
I agree totally.
And we have invested so much when it comes to this aspect. I wonder where we can begin to pick up pace with regards to this, because like we have said, we're trying to build and make this country a prosperous nation. Let
me tell you that power can work. I'm a beneficiary, and I'll tell you why. I live in Magodo. We enjoy 24-hour uninterrupted power right now. The estate negotiated.
I think we have to move.
Yes, the estate, I can't think of a better place to live right now. The estate negotiated with Ikeja Electric. Granted, we're paying the premium for a little higher. You understand? But it's far cheaper than whatever it is you're going to pay for a generator. Okay? And we have uninterrupted power. And what that experiment has told me is that it is possible. It's about leadership. It's about being deliberate. It's about making it a priority. Is it a priority right now for this government? I doubt.
Yeah, but the point there is others will say, okay, it's also, from what you've said, it's also a matter of influence. Not all Nigerians will have that influence.
No, I don't
negotiate with Ikeja Electric.
No, it's not about influence.
Right.
It's about leadership.
Okay.
It's about who has greater influence than the federal government.